Hi.
Hey Jimmy,
Hi, friend. Hold on,
how you going?
I promise I'm ready. I'm I'm like, I have a minute. I'll send off an email. One turns to 10.
Oh yeah,
Or I'm gonna close all my other stuff.
me.
I love how on these like Chromium browsers, like I use Brave. I love how you can exit the whole thing and come back and be like, just open everything I had open before.
Yeah, is that not the case? I haven't used anything but Chrome for about whatever many years.
Yeah.
Saving state is a great thing. It should be the default for everything.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. How are you, man?
Doing good, man. I've got a little confession, Jimmy. Whenever I
Oh
think
no.
of you,
Yeah.
I think of Jimmy from South Park. Jimmy.
Jimma. Yeah. Yeah.
That's goofy and it's puerile and juvenile, immature, but there you go.
It's the best. I'm in.
Okay.
Mhm. Got my beverage. I'm ready.
Me too. Sparkling water.
Fluids in, fluids out. I'm ready to
That's
go.
right. Oh, the
Roll.
fluids out part, I haven't plumbed that into the office yet, but I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it.
No, me either. I have a catheter actually inside me right now. So
So, Jimmy, when was the first time you typed how to make money online into Google?
um oh man, I've never typed that.
What? Liar.
That is not a thing I've typed. No. What I do is I overthink it and then think I understand how to do it. And then whatever I think that solution is, so the first time I actually made money online, it was selling my services as a fabricator. So I used to be a welder, like a TIG welder. I would build roll cages for like race cars, basically,
Hmm.
like Le Mans, Porsches, and Astons and things like that.
Wow.
And yeah, it was fun. It was a brutal job, but it was a case of turning your hobby into a job, which was a terrible idea. But
Hmm.
yeah, I was young, whatever, and I found out, oh, people pay a lot of money for this. So I went onto some forums that I was a part of. I had a little Nissan 2000 or 240 SX that I had like turbocharged and all that. So I was on all these Nissan forums, and that was when drifting like really started to take off over here in the States, around like 2005, 2006, 7,
Hmm.
thereabouts. And so I went online and just started posting like, hey, I can do this. Here's how much it costs. And people said, all right, I'm in,
So,
so that was like the first money I've actually made
so
online.
these were like weekend racers who wanted roll cages for their own cars.
That's right.
Wow,
That's
that's
right.
cool.
Yeah, because they're all part of some um like out here we have SCCA and NASA, but they all had to follow like the FIA rule book, and so some of they basically had to have one or two steps below like a proper rally car roll cage, so like I know how to do that. So let's do that.
But that's cool because you were creating, it wasn't a want, it was a need. If they wanted to race, they needed your product, right?
Yeah, and I needed their money.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's always the way.
Yeah.
Intersecting needs is how we all grease the wheels of life.
Yeah. That is a very heady, cerebral way of putting that. But yeah, I would put it more like I'm poor. I would like to not be. So I can do this. Give me your money.
What part of America do you grow up in?
I grew up in Arizona,
Hmm.
a major metro part of Arizona. We just call it Phoenix, but it's all those cities combined into one giant metropolis. So
Hmm.
yeah, Arizona, the east side of Arizona or East Valley of Phoenix, and then yeah, born and raised there, lived there until about 30 something. 30, yeah, early 30s. And because that's when I discovered copywriting. I was doing sales for a company and started to find out I'm like, well, I'm not even really doing sales. I'm like the product was hot at the time and I was becoming more of like an order taker. And I was
Hmm.
like, well, people are buying without me even like really selling them or having a conversation with them. So I just started like texting them and emailing them and getting sales that way. And then that's when the head of marketing for the company came out, said like, hey, we saw some of the stuff you're sending, like I didn't know you were a copywriter. And I was like, what's a copywriter? You know, because I thought a copywriter is like hipster in like Portland, Oregon, and like a coffee shop with the curly mustache, you know, and the fixie bike, you know, writing blog posts on like BuzzFeed and, you know, things like that, you know, just nonsense stuff. And he's like, no, that's a copywriter too, you know, but you
Those
know,
guys don't have the money.
right. And that's when I learned about direct response, and I was like, and you know, that's like what I really Googled when that was my how to make money online kind of Google moment. Was like, what is a direct response copywriter? First thing that came up was podcast with Kevin Rogers, and the latest episode was like him and John Carlton, and this guy named John Carlton was doing his simple writing system that he's coaching again, and I got into it and I was like, I love how John, you know, the other JC, I love how John writes, and I'm like, he's doing his coaching thing. So it's like, it was totally serendipitous. I'm like, here's a bunch of money. And so that was like my first education in copywriting, was simple writing system with John Carlton. And then probably a couple months later after that, I got picked up by Agora Financial. They flew me out there, and that's like the
Baltimore.
beginning. Yeah, Baltimore. So left Arizona, went to Baltimore at that point.
How'd you like it out there?
It's gorgeous and horrifying at the same time.
Okay.
It is a brutal place to be. We were in the not in downtown, like we weren't living downtown. We were living out in like the suburbs, you know, outside the beltway, we call it. And so yeah, I was jamming out there, and like Maryland is a gorgeous place to live, and it's where we really fell in love with the East Coast, and because it's not desert like where we grew up. So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've never visited Baltimore, but you know, I watched The Wire a couple of times, so I feel like I know something about this.
Yeah, dude, the mice and the rats are a real, like, that is the legit problem we have. And it's not like you can't get rid of them, it's more like we're the pest living in their land.
Okay.
You know, like that's like where they're, you know, from. They were there first, you know. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but they know how to make use of it more. And so like we could not get rid of the mice in our place, and so we fled.
And you're a country boy now, right?
Well, so we went to Idaho for a couple of years, and it's just not our vibe. The people there, they just want to be left alone. You know, they don't, I don't know. It's like we were on a street where there's three generations of families living literally next to each other. One house, two house, three. And it was like the great grandfather, grandfather, and then like the guy my age, and then his kids. And I'm like, this is weird, you know, it's like Beverly Hillbillies kind of thing. And a lot of people without a lot of, I mean, this is obviously overgeneralizing, but where we were, there's a lot of people that just didn't have a lot going for them. They're just happy existing day to day. And I'm not like that. My wife's not like that. And so we had to get out. And that's when we said, you know, let's go back to the East Coast. Let's not go so far north as Maryland. Let's go down to North Carolina. And so that's where we're at right now. I've been here about a year now.
Awesome. I've seen pictures of your place. It looks really beautiful there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we love it. I've never spent so much money on just house stuff and like yard stuff and garden stuff, you know, in my life. But it's I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like I'm okay beautifying, you know, spending money on beautifying the place that you live, you know, like having a nice place for your kids to grow up, and you know, and all the stuff that, you know, the wife wants to do with it. So it's like, yeah, so that's really why I work now.
It matters. It's like foundational memories. You know, the last place we lived in, like we waited too long to move, and by the time we wanted to move, we just hated it. You know, kids weren't
Yeah,
happy. I wasn't happy. My wife wasn't happy, and we were just like, no, it's time to go. We got to go.
that was our Idaho.
Yeah,
That was our Idaho. We were there for 2 years, and it was like, it wasn't even an itch. It was just becoming like an infection at that point. Like we have to get out.
yeah.
Just becoming more painful every moment we were there.
And I'm acutely aware, like me as an adult, my wife's an adult, we can tolerate that shit. You know, it's fine. But like the
Yeah,
memories you have in childhood really stay with you for the rest of your life. So it's like you got to give your kids good memories.
yeah,
or at least, you know, we're all going to have some bad memories, but more good than bad.
Yeah, as long as we can, yeah, tilt the scales in the favor. Yeah, and bad stuff is going to pop up anyways. That's like the stuff outside of our control. So it's like, let's may as well cram in all the good stuff that we can't control.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's my kind of primary kind of like North Star when it comes to parenting. Is like get them to 18 with a majority of good memories, and you're done pretty good as a parent.
Yeah, dude, that's a good point. Yeah, it's something my wife and I talk about is, you know, and we tell our kids this. We're very transparent with our kids. Is like it's our job to, you know, love you, care for you, do things like we're Christians, you know, so it's like teach you the gospel and all this stuff, and fulfill that obligation. But also, it's our job to coach you into being a functional adult, you know,
Yes.
that can exist in society, to be able to be self-reliant and independent, but also coexist with other people and collaborate with people, you know. And so there's, and man, it's like we have one of our daughters is 10 years old, and it's like we're running out of time. Like I feel like I've taught you 10% of what I want to teach you, and it's like you're already 10. It's like we're so running out of time. So yeah, doing the best you can with what you have and the time you're given, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, once they get to, I mean, obviously they don't just get up and leave at 18, but you know, you hand them the keys. They're in control of their life from that point, and they get to make whatever decisions they choose. And all you can really do is, like you say, kind of coach them to have solid judgment, and then from there, it's up to them.
Oh yeah, dude. Amen, brother. Well said. Yeah, well said.
It's a pretty heavy responsibility, but like it's also the way you kind of heal your own wounds as a human being from your own childhood
It
if you
is.
do it
It's
right.
the, yeah, it's like I know what I wanted better, so I'm gonna do that better. And which is kind of ironic because in doing that, we're also, you know, creating these like little traumas for our kids where it's like you don't find out, you know, it's like they're not gonna find out till they're in therapy anyways. So it's like I'll find out later.
Yeah, yeah, I do think about that too. Like you have to make sure that you sort of break the chains of the patterns that you know that you've unconsciously picked up from previous generations of just like little habits and behaviors and activities that don't serve you and are not going to serve your children. And it's like your job as a parent is actually to notice that shit and say, okay, this stops here. We don't pass that shit on. We'll pass on as much of the stuff that serves them as we can, but the stuff that didn't serve us is not going to serve them either. And it'd be best not to send that to the next generation.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like when that stuff is conscious, right? Because then there's all like the unconscious stuff that we're doing without even realizing it, and that's where I kind of get this vibe that you and your bride are the same way, but like my wife and I, like we're very good about recognizing those things in each other, and we're very open where it's like we can more, you know, I don't know how else to say this, like we can call each other out on it, right? Where it's like in a very love, I mean that, you know what I mean, like in a very loving way, like hey, like behind the scenes, you know, outside of the view of children, it's like yo, heard you say this, you know, maybe don't say that. And it's like, oh yeah, like I didn't even realize that, you know, the stuff you do where you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I did that. Yeah, my dad did that, I hated that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. It's
yeah,
like
being
they
aware.
do. Your partner, your spouse does notice things about you, and especially if they know your parents too, they like notice like your bullshit habits that you've clearly picked up from your mom and dad. It's like cut that shit out before you
Yeah.
get old and too cranky to change.
Yeah, yeah, and it never doesn't sting when you hear it too. It's like you just want to react and just it's like I can't even be mad, like you're right. You're totally right. Yeah,
What happened to you with Agora? How long did you stay there?
I was there for a couple of years. I had an interesting experience with Agora. One, I had
Mhm.
an incredibly positive experience with all the people and like how they took me in, and like they did their best with the circumstances we were given. So when I started, it was right at the tail end of it was end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And so what had just happened around then was Bitcoin popped. I don't remember
Yeah.
how high I got, 30K, something like that.
think so, yeah.
That number's in my head. Yeah, and like James Altucher and all those guys had all these. It was basically if you wrote a promo that said crypto or Bitcoin, it was gonna take off. But then around that time is when Agora was. I might be making this memory up, but here's what I vaguely recall. I think a lot of the Agoras, or at least us in Agora Financial, we were kicked off Facebook, and I think we were having issues with Google advertising, and basically we're having a really hard time getting traffic. And so what that did is, if you look at what happened with Agora Financial, they blew up, did like 300 something million in a single year, and brought in all these new copywriters. Are like, we're going to do a copy camp, we're going to really scale this thing. We're going to splinter off, create what they called imprints of like mini Agora divisions underneath Agora Financial. And so it brought in all these new copywriters, and then it was like, oh, now we can't get promos out the door because we can't advertise, and then revenue dropped, and it became a situation of, yeah, I know you want to get your feet wet and get some notches in your belt and get some reps in, but we need to make money. So I know you just wrote this thing, it's okay, but we're gonna run these other affiliate promos from these other, from Legacy Research and Stansberry instead, because we know it's going to make money versus risking against maybe making money. And so there was a lot of stuff that we just couldn't, us new copywriters couldn't get out the door. And so it was like, that was kind of a frustrating thing. Plus there was the learning curve of like taking too long to write a promo at first, and then writing a promo really fast after that. But then I kind of had a conscience check when I was listening to a sales call. Well, really, it was a customer service call, but it was someone calling
Which is
in,
a sales call. In direct
which is a
response, a
sales
customer
call.
service call is always a sales call.
Yeah. Oh, you're calling to cancel, and it's like you're going to get off the phone having spent another $2,500. Yeah, absolute savages. And so I was listening to one of these, and I'm like, these people are spending their social security checks on one of these back end offers, which is like $1,000 to $2,000 more sometimes. And they genuinely believe this is going to work, meaning like there's 100% certainty. And I'm like, I'm behind the scenes, I can see the track record of our services, and it's like there's one or two that worked really well, but most of these have a horrible track record. And it was like, oh, of course they're buying the idea of it working, they're not buying like the results of it actually working. And it just, I got totally disenfranchised, and like it kind of turned into like a poison drip in my mind, and I kind of started working myself out of the system, out of the Agora system. And I remember I was at Copy Chief Live that year. What was it, 2020, I think? And yeah, I was at Copy Chief Live. I had been fishing, or having conversations with another position, with people at another position. That was Oren Klaff. I went to work with Oren Klaff. And so I got the offer to work with him while I was at Copy Chief Live. So I called the people at Agora Financial, said, hey, I need to put in my notice. This is what I'm doing. They're like, oh, sorry to hear that, but okay, cool. It is what it is. And then later that day, someone says, hey, did you see what happened at Agora Financial? And I was like, oh, I was thinking like, oh, like that's a weird way, to say like word got out that I'm leaving or something. It's like, I was no big loss to them. I didn't have any huge hits with them. They're like, no, like FTC just had this huge lawsuit drop that came out today. So like I put in my notice like the day of this FTC lawsuit, and like things fell off a cliff for them after that. So yeah, I mean, that's a nutshell, I think, of my Agora Financial story. We can go more into that if you'd like, or wherever you want to go with it.
No, it's good. I didn't know that background. And yeah, it's funny, like you talked about like sort of, listening to the customer service calls, and, couple of people who used to work in that space who said to me, I was like, listening to the customer service calls was kind of the thing you needed to do to research, like what to write about a lot of the time. But at the same time, it would be like, could be really heartbreaking as well. It would like, it was, harrowing stuff at times listening to those calls. And I guess kind of what I wanted to ask is because you've obviously had your like, yeah, obviously you're Christian anyway, but you had a come to Jesus moment during that employment period. And was there a point? Because for me, I know like I first heard about all this direct response stuff years ago, and it took me several years to figure out that with companies like Agora, they talk about the quality of their research, but really the product isn't there. Like the copy and the marketing, the funnels, that's the product. The marketing is the product. They're really the product that actually gets delivered to the buyer is really some kind of like vestigial limb, like a sixth toe or something.
That's a really good way to put that. There's what I did notice is the products that were the biggest sellers. All right, there's no superlatives, right? As I'm already thinking of like some exceptions, but to overgeneralize, the products that were like the hottest sellers were the ones that were heavy market based, like market trend based, like we talked about Bitcoin taking off
Yes.
and things like that, or just like a brilliantly executed idea. But with that said, the ones that were the best for the customer, like if I were to buy something to like give to like my dad to use, those were the products that were kind of like the so-so sellers, and so like there's some gurus. One of them I'm still friends with over there. His name is Zach Scheit. He is brilliant. He does actual research, and he's like a salt of the earth kind of guy. Someone I would argue that you would be friends with, just a genuine guy. And so like his stuff works. It's not like here's how to make 1,200% from a single trade. It's more like, maybe we'll outperform the market, maybe not. But when the market does bad, we're not going to do as bad. Right. So we're winning by not losing, which is like the original goal of a hedge fund, is like,
Yes.
yeah. So it's like, and then meanwhile, all these promos are talking crap about how hedge funds are bad and all this. And it's like how, the portfolio theory is like archaic. And as I learn more about it, I'm like, no one knows what they're talking about. Like everyone's making stuff up. And like the guys who actually know what they're doing, they're like, yeah, actually this stuff works, so.
From what you saw, does the world of people actually like active in finance, i.e., investment bankers, things like that, do they have an opinion on these financial publishers like Agora? Because I've seen a couple of people cross over. Like one is Nomi Prinz, like someone who's kind of a well-known, economist or media figure. And then there would be kind of people like that have a kind of sort of marketer or promoter type dimension to them, like Jim Cramer. But like, what do people in the like legit world of finance actually think about this kind of financial publishing?
Most of them don't know that financial publishing exists.
Ah, okay.
They're oblivious to it. And so I know this because a friend of mine who's a super affiliate for FinPub,
Yeah.
a friend of mine and we are in the process of launching like an alternative financial publication that's heavy on compliance, not as basically something that's like, it's not going to make 300 million, maybe it'll make 10, but we can sleep at night, right? And so we were just doing a shoot in Florida with a guy who's a portfolio manager. Like he's a guy who's got background, like he was helping to run the
1 second, Jimmy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good night, kids. No,
Hi.
you guys got all hop upstairs. You can't sleep on the couch. No, go on upstairs. This guy wants to sleep on the couch in my office.
Oh, I believe it.
No, go on. Close the door, son. I'll come and see you after my call. Not gonna happen. Okay, go on upstairs. Shut that door, please. Good night.
That's cute. Beautiful children.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm blessed.
Yeah. So like this guy is a portfolio manager. He has experience like helping to run I'm going to say this wrong, but basically like the Federal Reserve of Brazil or the something bank, so he was helping to do, really high level stuff. And now he just works with, multi-million dollar clients managing their portfolios. And so we're down there and he said, oh, I want to introduce you to this guy. And this one guy comes in and it's like, like, oh, what's your background? He says, oh, I was one of the guys that was up for the position of like the director of AI for Robinhood, but now he runs his own, AI type of firm. And he's just like, he's a quant, and so he's just like the nerdiest of the nerdiest. And like, we're explaining financial publishing to him. And he's like, what, that exists? And he's like, how can you just get away with saying this stuff? I'm like, and I'm explaining SEC exemption over here in the States and First Amendment, freedom of speech and, and things like that. And he's like, that is bananas. And then the guy we're there with, who's like the portfolio manager, he's like, I know, right? Like, can you believe that this is even a thing? And he's like talking about it, like no one knows. Like they've never heard of this before.
It's a weird thing. Like, it doesn't really exist here in Ireland because, what we have in terms of financial media is pretty heavily regulated. I don't think we have this, like, there's not the kind of casino culture, like stock market culture here that the United States seems to have, where people feel like they must get money into the market, or they'll be living under a bridge eating beans from a can forevermore.
So hey, can I ask you something about that real quick?
Yeah.
And I'll let you continue. Is that a overall like Western Europe kind of thing, or is that like, are you talking like an Ireland thing?
I'm
or like
talking
overall?
Ireland.
Okay.
Because there's definitely more like awareness. Like it's in recent years, because there's been a lot of big entrepreneurial successes out of Ireland, and like things like the likes of Stripe and Ryanair will be two really big successes here, and a lot of foreign direct investment from big US firms as well into Ireland in recent years. There's more awareness. The US is the UK next door, Britain, is a more financialized society for sure.
Okay.
As for mainland Europe, I can't really speak. Like, there's 27 countries, they all speak different languages. You've no clue. It's very hard to understand what's going on culturally. The idea of like the EU as a kind of like federal agglomeration of countries is in no way like the United States. We do not have a unifying culture. We do not have a unifying language, which is the root of culture. So it just
that makes
doesn't
sense.
hold together the way the US
it sounds like the EU, thinking of the EU as a singular entity is kind of like a misnomer, where it's like it's not really it's like on a technicality, yeah, it's a continent, but
Yes.
like in a practical standpoint, they may as well be 10,000 miles apart.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm going to just drop this desk down to the seating position, Jimmy, because I've been standing for many, many hours. I want to get comfortable in this conversation. So
I got my little rocking board, but I've had to stop using it on calls because I end up like swaying
and unnerving
like
people
left or right, just like this.
Jimmy's off his meds again.
Like, yeah, I'm calling you from my boat.
Okay, so I got this set up. I built my own standing desk. I bought the frame, and then I went to a salvage yard and got a really nice big slab of teak that got pulled out of an old school.
Beautiful.
And I put it all together myself, set up my own setup, but everything real nice. But I got the manual crank driven.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
just because it doesn't break and it's not dependent on power. And
anyway, I ended up building mine too. It's like I'll go metric on you, and it's about 2.5 by 1 meters, and it's like it's an outdoor table. It's all waterproofed and everything. And so I just got the tabletop, got rid of the legs, and then got one of those motorized standing desk things.
So I didn't get the motor because I thought the motor would break. And I didn't fancy it have much longevity with the really heavy top I put on. But then I discovered you can rig up a battery drill.
Oh, what a legend. Yeah.
So now I just raised over my desk with his battery drill.
It's still motorized, just with an extra step. It's
motorized,
perfect.
it's a bionic motorized
Yeah.
system.
Well, and you don't have to worry about like a panel going bad and then being like, oh, well, I can't even replace it because, they got this from Alibaba
Yeah,
and they
my
don't make
desk is
it anymore.
apocalypse proof.
That's awesome. Apocalypse proof.
Yeah, like that's funny what you said about the like legit financial experts not really understanding that there's a kind of financial marketing industry or scene or subculture or whatever the hell you want to call it. There is a little bit of it in the UK, like the South Bank Research, which are an offshoot of Agora. And actually, Agora have quite a bit of like property and stuff in Ireland. They've got an office in Dublin. I've actually spoke on the phone to the founder's son. So the founder is Bill Bonner, and his
Mhm.
son, whose name escapes me right now, very nice chap. He lives in Dublin, has an office in Dublin, and they have like Bill Bonner's thing is buying like historic homes, right, from like 200, 300 years ago. Loves like Georgian 1800s type
Yeah.
properties, and he bought one of them.
Chateaus and things like that.
He's got a very beautiful one in Waterford, and it's used as a kind of services administration office for a lot of the businesses and their financial dealings because there are, Ireland has been, it's a kind of a tax haven for
Yeah.
international companies who they can use various complex company structures to shelter for themselves from a lot of tax.
Yeah. So I've heard. Yeah. Oh, with the financial professionals not being aware of financial publishing, in the Agora sense, if you will, they were almost alarmed to find out how much money is possible to make in these fields. So, like, just discovering that, like when I told them, like, yeah, this Agora Financial in 2017 or whatever did like over 300 million, something like that, and it just like stunned them. They're like, 300 million in what? I'm like, in like orders. Think of it as like a big magazine, and it's like they got expensive publications, it's like in just overall orders, and they're just like, wait, so not like 300 million in like assets under management? It's like, no, we never like touched their investment. He's like, what are they buying?
It's a it's a famous it's a famous.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
It's kind of the
it's a
same way.
yeah.
It's the same way, like if you ever go to Reddit and look for threads about V-Shred, like the vitriol,
Oh
they're
my
always like,
God.
that V-Shred asshole, he's just like, he's so full of shit, he's misinforming everyone. Very few of them actually realize that Vince is basically a spokesmodel for a team of like evil marketing geniuses who just
Yeah,
spin up all kinds of like mischievous nonsense all day long and get Vince to say it on camera.
yeah, he's like a Zac Efron of like internet marketing, you
You're
know?
here, yeah, you're here for your abs and your teeth. We'll
Yeah,
still, don't worry about the boys. All the nerds in the back will give you the things to say.
yeah, yeah. Like he looks like he could have been an extra in the Barbie movie or something. I act like
Uh,
I know. I haven't seen it and I don't plan to, but you know what I mean. You're picking up what I'm putting down.
but it's exactly the same thing. Like there's loads of people in the fitness industry who like think that he's just some guy who shows up and creates content. They don't realize that there's this like labyrinthine like business operation behind him, like absolutely just caning, like just making insane amounts of money. Like they do, I've heard 200 million plus a year in sales.
I've heard numbers like that too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wouldn't
And it's
surprise me.
and like all these, all these PTs who are like making 50K a year, like what the hell? Like, how can this guy be so rich for just talking on camera?
Yeah, step one, win the genetic lottery.
Step
Step
two,
yeah, step two. Uh, I don't know.
find some smart nerd friends.
Yeah,
Step
yeah,
three, profit.
yeah. I mean, either smart nerd friends or shrewd charlatans. However you want to spin that. I'm not saying that's what they are. I don't want to. I don't want to. Denigrate or whatever. Those guys, but read between the lines.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
So you got out of Agora you got into work with Oren Klaff, and I don't know much about him other than he's very highly esteemed sales trainer. So what was that experience?
That was a I don't know. I don't want to just say like interesting because it was. I mean, it was all interesting. That was like a just a blitzkrieg of like stumble in there, do a bunch of stuff, and it's like being in a lightning storm, and then all of a sudden it's like I can't, and just like falling out of the cloud, just landing on the ground. Like, what year is it? And just like, um, I'm I like many entrepreneurs and copywriters, I fit into that bucket of in Western medicine they call it ADD, of just like, oh, squirrel, what's this, just he puts the H in ADHD, that hyperactivity, and it was a lot of like we're executing on an idea, and halfway through it, it's pivot over here. It's like, well, we don't even know if this one is going to work, or even if that one is going to work. He's like, well, that's okay because we've already pivoted off of that one to go to this one, and it was just a lot of that, and then it was slowly like, hey, you know, I don't know that this is working out. I'm like, what is not working out? Like, it was, and I'm like, I'm agreeing that it's not. And as chaotic as I'm explaining this, that's what it was like being in the situation. It was just, do this, come over here, let's try this thing. By the way, we're doing a live event, so let's pitch this now. And it's like, oh, I got some friends who are, they have their own company. It's like, we need you to help write copy for their thing. And I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
do this over here. And then it's like, oh, but we still need like all these emails. And so I was writing a bunch of his stuff, and we had like some of the most like successful email launches of like the Oren Klaff brand at the time, and even like oversold his live event, and just like really launched some of the things that he had going at the time. But it was frantic at best. What I was looking for and what I was hoping for was, like, I wasn't there for a job. I was there because I was looking for leadership, and like, some sort of evolution to the next level of whatever it is you call it that we do as influencers and persuaders. And didn't quite get that. And then like things just fizzled out almost as quickly as they started. I was there for a while. I don't even know how long a while was. 6, 8, 10 months, something like that. And then, yeah, and then I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I left to kind of do freelancing after that.
There are so many of those types of mercurial characters in this industry. And it's like, how do they ever get anything done? But they seem to just brute force and become like, very successful, just almost despite themselves.
It, like, through sheer tyranny of will, just yeah, forcing their existence into the ether, and just like a rabid bulldog, just like, here I am, whether you like it or not, and we, as copywriters and persuaders, we learn a lot about the impact of a strong-willed leader, and how people follow leaders, they don't necessarily follow ideas, all that stuff. And so he is a very, I don't want to say aggressive or alpha or things like that. He has a lot of characteristics that a lot of men like to follow, where he's very bold in his approach and his ideas, and he's very charismatic and charming, and he's easily one of the smartest guys I've ever worked with. Like, hearing him like devise a pitch for venture capital just off the top of his head, and it was like perfect. It's like, oh, we could just run that. And so like, absolutely brilliant guy, and but just had all the characteristics that people like to follow. And he published that book, that first book, Pitch Anything, which was just like, this is the man. This is the man. He is, he's the women want to be with him, men want to be him, that kind of thing. And so it's like, this is the dude. And so just his following just exploded after that. And I suppose that's like, there's certainly a part of that that drew me to him, but it was through, I bought his course, and I'm just like listening to him. I'm like, this guy is a really, really smart guy. And that's what gravitated me towards him. I'm like, he's very intellectually stimulating. And that's what I was looking for. It was like that next level. And little did I know, I was walking into like this cloud of a Tasmanian devil, just like, guess we're doing this.
Is what did I want to ask is, yeah, but somebody like that, damn, I have my question almost perfectly formulated there. The charisma, yes, is somebody like that, is like, are they just a natural, like, some people are highly polished, but some people do seem to have a gift for persuasion. Now, I'm not trying to do this whole talent versus hard work thing. I realize that everyone who achieves success works hard. But do some people, someone like that, have just something extra about them that's almost uncanny?
I think so. I think I would put you in that category. I would certainly put me in that category, where there's a lot of our momentum and progress that we've gotten just by existing, just by how we are, and just by the charisma that we have and our ability to connect with people and to stimulate something in other people. And like, reflecting on Oren, there's absolutely that, and so there's a lot of that where maybe we don't need to work as hard as someone who's, I don't know, socially retarded, where it's like it takes a lot of training to get them to be able to communicate without sounding like a jerk, or just to be able to open up. So yeah, I would say yeah, that charisma can definitely overcome that hard work crutch, or the intelligence kind of crutch sometimes. I know it has for me. It helps that we're also pretty intuitive with how we do our persuasion, and so there's it's like we kind of intuitively get it. So then when we go forward and do training, it really amplifies that. But I think I would much rather have the charisma trait than anything else. I think that's like one of the most important aspects of my success, that's for sure.
Yeah, but think about people that are, widely admired. It is the charisma that kind of, at least it builds reputations, it builds legends about people
I
more
would
than
say
anything
so.
else.
Yeah, it's yeah, because people, I mean, it's like our dumb brains, like we don't know what business is. It's like we don't really, and this is my philosophy, right? So like, go with me on this for a second. But it's like, we don't know what business is. We don't know the difference between a business relationship and like a relationship with like your spouse or your friend. It's just relationships. Do I like you? Do I think you're going to kill me? Do I think, do I see us maybe getting along, whether as friends or at least being acquaintances in the future? Then cool, let's continue this conversation, or let's continue this relationship that we're having together. And yeah, because there's some people where it's like, I don't understand it, I'm getting a red flag, I'm done,
Yeah,
I'm out, and
yeah.
it's like, I mean, I would, there's so many people where, man, there's so many people I've worked with who are extremely good at what they do, but I will never work with them again, just because they're just like rude, or just overly pushy, and things like that, where it's like, I don't care how good you are, you're just insufferable to be around.
Or to be more diplomatic about it, it's just not a values fit. You know,
Just not what? Say that
not a
again.
values fit. You know, sometimes they're just people where you just like, I think that's like the, for me with compatibility with people, if,
Yeah.
you know, they can believe different things, they can have completely different opinions, but if on some level there's a values fit, I'll probably like them and respect them, even if I don't necessarily agree with them on a lot of things.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, it does come down to values. Um, which to throw a little sidebar and then we'll come back to this little tangent is I think when you kind of reach a certain point in your training in persuasion and copywriting, you realize that, oh, I can be more successful or have a more successful longer term or longer lasting promotion if I appeal to their values more more so than just appealing to their immediate desires like greed or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I mean, I'm a big fan of thinking in terms of values, but yeah, bringing it back in, compatibility of values. I'm with you.
So the last couple of years, at this point, you've gone away from working with Oren Klaff. Did you then decide, okay, I'm going to go freelance, or did you launch an offer? What did you do?
Um, Couple things. I had done some offers here and there. Um, had my website and did some, did as copywriters do and do some copywriter based training, selling copy to how to do copywriting to other copywriters. Um,
The
fulfilling the
coaches who coach coaches.
dude, it was weird. It was just like this feels like the whole time doing it. I'm like, this feels I know that I think differently and I know that the people that are buying they love it, but I'm like, I just feel dumb doing it. It's like there's something just like I don't know, not icky, just like what am I doing here? It was almost silly is what it felt like. So I did that a little bit. I did freelancing mostly because I had to.
Mm-hmm.
I did end up going, I'm just now remembering this. I did end up going to work with another financial publication called Wealth Press, which was a fun, interesting experience, doing a lot of things differently. But frankly, that was just a job for me because doing the freelance thing, and I'm like, I am frankly just not organized enough to be a solo freelancer. Like I would need an assistant that's basically, you know, keeping everything, all the machine duct taped together as I'm trying to break it every day, while doing stuff. So I kept breaking it and I was like, I just need a job. So did the Wealth Press thing for a little bit. Then they let go a bunch of people, including me from there for whatever reason, I left there, did freelancing again. And quickly remembered, oh yeah, I hated this before. I still hate this. Um, and frankly, I did a lot of praying at that point. Like I need something that is a job, and call it a blessing, serendipitous, or whatever. But a friend of mine, a guy who I made friends with when I was at Agora, because there was a brief period in there where I was working in the affiliate management part of Agora Financial. Um, I made a connection with one of our affiliates over there and built a friendship with them. Well, now a couple years later, he reaches out to me around that same time where I'm like, really genuinely praying for like an answer, a job, something like that. He reaches out to me and says, hey, that company I work with, we need a senior copywriter. Are you available? And it was literally within like a 24 or 48 hour period of all that happening. And I was like, yes, I am. And he said, are you able to jump on a call with our marketing director? Cool. Jump on a call with her and him and just talked. And then suddenly like the president of the company is like in the hall and she's like, hey, can you come talk to this guy real quick? And talking to the president of the company. And um I had an offer letter in my inbox, by like later that afternoon, and so that
Nice.
company is Goldco, and that's who I'm working with. That's like my main jam right now.
Yeah, I think I did a little bit of work for Adam. Is he still there?
Yeah, that's the guy I'm talking about.
Yes. Really
Yeah,
nice
Adam
guy.
Adam Gardner.
Real nice guy.
Yeah, dude, that's I totally forgot about that. I remember digging around looking for some stuff from like what are some old ideas that they've run before? And I remember seeing your name pop up on as like the owner of like some of these. I was like, oh, it's a small world.
Yeah, when I was in Copy Accelerator, Adam hired a bunch of people out of there to do tests, to write some emails and test, and it was fun. It was a really good experience.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and
That's,
they're like an interesting kind of proposition because they don't go in hardcore for the kind
yeah.
of big hype stuff like the likes of Agora do. They're selling a very conservative financial product. Like people who want to buy in gold, it doesn't get more conservative than that, right? So they
Yeah,
can't
and it's
they can't sell on excitement. They have to sell on stability and security.
it's so yeah. So I mean, I don't know that I'm necessarily giving away anything to my competitors by saying this. But from, you know, for other copywriters that are listening to this and any other marketers, here is the psychological shift I've had. And this could apply to any industry for anything. One, we couldn't, because we're not technically a publication, we cannot lean on the SEC publishers exemption where we can just say whatever we want and call it freedom of speech. It's like everything that we say has to be backed up. Either someone else significant said the same thing we're saying, or oh, that's frankly our only option. Or I can, or it's something that I can back up economically in a spreadsheet, that kind of thing. And so, like a normal email, say that, and I'll get to your point. A normal email for like an Agora, I might have a couple citations. A normal email in Goldco, I'll have between like 12 and like 20 citations. Every little thing I say, I'll have like one, two, or even like three sources for that.
And what makes the difference is because like the likes of Agora, they're information publishers, they're selling information, that is their product. But for a company like Goldco, are they actually selling financial products as well as information and advice?
What we were selling is directly is here's what's going on in the world. Here's why that's a problem for the stability of our money. It might make sense to get gold or silver to help you make that decision. We have our, what we call like our gold kit, which is like a informational kit. All the gold, precious metals companies like us that do gold IRAs, they all have their version of this, and it's like get this kit to get more, to find out more. They go to a page, opt in, they go to another page where it's like you enter your information. Well, now you're going to have a sales guy calling you, like, and then they'll get on a phone. All right, we just want to confirm your address, but just curious, what had you interested in gold? Right. And so they'll still mail the kit to them and, we'll FedEx it to them, that kind of thing. And to get to the other point of like where the shift with precious metals is different is it's not a financial product at all. Like whenever we've tried to sell it the same way you'd sell a financial idea, it just wouldn't work. And then come to find out, people aren't buying it because it's a financial product. They're buying it because it's insurance, but not insurance against market crashes or inflation or things like that. It's insurance against governments. And so buying gold and silver is more like selling a survival offer.
Wow, yeah, of course it is. It's
Right.
preppers. They're just
It's
preppers at
preppers.
money. Preppers at money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like preppers, it's like a small subset of people. It's like there's a little bit of prepper in all of us, and so it's appealing to that side of the market. And of course it tends to be the more for the Americans, the right leaning conservative types of people who don't like where the country's headed, and think like, I don't like what's happening with our money, especially with the threat of like a digital currency thing going on. And so I'm going to preserve my money physically. Yeah. And so it's prepping.
Super interesting, man.
Mm-hmm.
What about these funny ads you do?
Oh yeah, so I do that a little bit. Um,
Was that just a goof or was that actually like a serious business venture?
no, that was absolutely a serious a serious business venture. It's where it gets tricky, or where it got tricky, is one, tried doing it as a agency. And I don't know if you've ever tried to do an agency thing. It is the worst. That is like, that is an awful model if you are a creative. It makes sense if you are, if your brain operates like a spreadsheet and you can treat it like an algorithmic analytical model where you're playing a game of probability, and the creative is important, but it's not the only thing. I was going into it where the creative is the everything, right? And that is a losing game from what I was doing. We had really good success with the copy that we were writing. Like, we're getting like half the, cutting CPAs in half, like quadrupling click-through rates, all sorts of stuff like that. But for the length of the, not length of the funnel, for like the scale of the offer, the more rudimentary basic stuff would end up winning in the long term scaling up kind of thing. And so, and plus selling the idea of having a humorous kind of snappy type of ad to a business owner was just, it was a tough sell. It's like you either already got it or you didn't, you know. And
Yeah.
so, you know, so I had like this little course thing that I did that for some reason I still get orders. I don't know where they're buying it from, probably on my website, and I haven't cleaned that up in like 8 months, but it's mostly like copywriters who like get into it and they're like, oh, I like the idea of writing a little bit more how I think, you know, for each individual person, how they think. So, and yeah, that's I've kind of call it shelved that. I didn't call it a failure. I just called it like moving on, because I found myself back in the boat of like, oh, look, I'm selling copy to copywriters again.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Right.
I get it.
And so now it's like all the people have done it, like a lot of them, like they're using it in their copy and they're getting a lot of success with it. And I use it in the style that I write for, even for Goldco and for some of these other offers that I occasionally write for. And it still works, but now it's just like, oh, that's just how I write. It's not its own independent thing anymore. I don't know if that makes sense, but just
You
thinking
do
out loud.
everything from home, so
Yeah.
how do you actually like, sort of keep any sort of distance between work and home life? Because I'm doing the
Oh,
same. I find it impossible.
so I have a door
Yeah.
that I built into the wall. So
Okay.
this was originally so over here in the States, in like new build homes, they're very big. And they'll have like, here's a room for where you do breakfast, but here's another room for where you do dinner, which is like, I don't know why, I don't care. And so we walled off the dining room in here. It's got like the fancy ceiling and stuff like that. Walled it off and had some doors put in, and I lock it and I put in sound deadening or sound canceling headphones.
Is there a
But
window in there?
nah, oh yeah, big one right here to
Good,
the front.
good.
But
Thank God for that.
dude, yeah. So like during calls like this, I'll close it and I got like the uh darkening, whatever we call it, light blocking curtains and stuff like that. And I
Mhm.
got my fancy light right here to give me that effect. But dude, I've been working from home since 2019, 2020, and it took a few years of training my wife, training my kids that like daddy's home, but daddy's not home. Right. And it's like, and I know you get it. And like everyone that works from home, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. Especially like it sounds wrong saying like training my wife, but that's like the only way I could think of saying it, where it's like, because before it'd be like, hey, this thing happened, can you fix it? And I'm like in the middle of like
Yeah.
writing something, and it's like,
They don't get
no.
it, and they're never going to get it. And I've had to just make peace with that. But I just engineer situations to get them all out of the house for several hours every day. So the
Yeah,
kids go to
dude, and
school, and my wife, she has a business of her own now, which
that's,
is
yeah, I
fantastic.
see that. Yeah, so like my wife stays home, we do homeschool, so they're home always.
Mhm.
I mean, they do a lot of field trips that they go out with other homeschool groups and things like that, so they're out. But yeah, we're on year 4, almost year 5 with it, and it's like they generally leave me alone. Yeah. But I also know that if I'm going outside of my office, they're going to be there. So I make sure, like, if I,
It depends.
so like if I, yeah, I mean, I'll still get the occasional knock at the door where it's like, my youngest is like, Dad, I'm done with school. Can I play Minecraft now? Stuff like that. And it's like, I'll still get that. But yeah, so if I go out there, even to go to the bathroom, I'm like, I'm just going to finish what I'm doing because I know I'm going to be pounced on as soon as I go out there. Yeah.
I've been like real lucky. I mean, I had a key for this door, but it's disappeared. So, clearly my wife has done something with that. But like, and it's so funny, like, because she's got a beauty salon and she's like, when I'm in the beauty salon, don't you dare come there. Like, you drop me off at 10 and you pick me up at 6. And I don't want to, I don't want any messing around in between those hours. But like, of course, when she comes home, she's just like, bang, surprise, bitches. She doesn't care.
Just
How
coming
dare
in
you
with
tell me
all
to get
the,
out of your office? Who do you think you are to tell me to get out of your office?
yeah,
I'm your wife.
we're very, dude. How long have you been married?
10 years.
Yeah, so like I'm 15, almost 16, and it's like you learn that, like, yeah, is it fair that there's double standards? And it's like it doesn't matter if it's fair.
It doesn't matter. It's too late
there
now.
is double
You're
standards.
too deep. You're too deep in the funnel at this point.
Yeah. So what I'm wondering with you is with your wife's business, because to give you some context, like my wife is in the early stages of starting her business. She's finishing some training for what she does.
You're gonna be a PT or something?
No, well, kind of. She does in like functional nutrition, which is like, yeah, hormone health fixing stuff like that for women with like PCOS mainly. So do you find with your wife where it's like, hey, it almost seems like a dream come true? Your wife has a business and she's married to someone who knows a lot about marketing, but do you actually overlap, or do you just kind of end up just not?
No, I've helped her out with that stuff because like just like there's not much to do it. Like it's a pretty simple business. We tried to do some local media advertising, didn't produce any results. And could we do it better? Yes. Do I have the time and patience to try and optimize it? No. What has worked, when she posts on her social media every day, more people come. So I'm like, just keep posting. She's like, what do I post? I was like, just do your nails a different color every day. It doesn't matter. People don't care about, like, you don't have to say something clever. And then I installed ChatGPT on her phone, and she loves that because ChatGPT will write her Facebook copy now. She loves ChatGPT, which is great. And like did some basic Google ads, like just one very simple campaign with, just the simple keywords that make sense, which is beauty salon near me, nails near me, eyebrows near me, eyelashes near me, waxing near me. Because we're serving like an interesting spot. It's like it's a road that got bypassed by a highway. Like it used to be a like arterial road, like a main
Oh,
road for this
I know
region.
what you mean. Yeah.
And now like 1 mile or less than a mile, maybe half a kilometer parallel to it, there's a much bigger, like 4-lane, 120-kilometer-an-hour road. So that road got bypassed, but it's still a very good road to be on because it was like a key road for so long. There's a lot of wealthy people living either side of that road, like a lot of wealthy
Oh.
landowners. So it looks low key. You think you're just driving through countryside, but there's lots of money in those hills, There's gold in them there hills.
What a fun way to put that. That's awesome.
So
Yeah,
like,
that's cool, man.
and it's interesting. Like, it's like, what do people respond to? Organic social media, a little bit of Google ads, and the thing with the Google ads is just actually to kind of encourage Google to like her. That's kind of my thinking about it. Like she's getting some clicks, which is great, but there's not a huge catchment area. But like posting organic on social, and then just we set up. She's got a CRM, which we set up that, and there's like automatic SMS after someone does an appointment. They get a message saying, "Hey, leave us a Google review, and you get €10 discount on your next visit." And that's been really effective. Like she's been in business about 7-8 weeks, and she's got like almost 20, I think 19 now Google reviews for the business really quickly. So like
That's
that,
awesome.
and that I know like that's all it is. It's like local search. Like if that's the most important thing. Like, what do people do when they want a beauty salon? They want to just find something near me. It's real simple.
Dude, that's really cool. Do you,
I'm a basic bitch, Jimmy.
dude, that's the way to do it. I'm with you too. Do you find it, how gratifying is it to work with a business where it's, I don't know if I should choose my words carefully, but how awesome is it to work with a business that's an actual business doing actual stuff and not
Yeah,
just selling hot air?
well, it's good, but it would be better if it wasn't my wife, because I'm not gonna. She's not gonna ever write me a check, and
Sure.
plus she comes at me with this when Lambo bullshit. Like, I've been in business 8 weeks and I'm not rich yet. What the hell is happening here, John? Come on, move it, step it up a notch.
Yeah. 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 And then you find out like, oh, there's paperwork that involves the government. This is like another marriage, is
Oh,
what it's
that's
like.
that's my job. That's definitely not her job.
Oh man, that's where I hire someone else and just that is not, yeah, I am, if it was left up to me, I would already be in jail for like accidental tax evasion or something. It's just like, no,
Yeah,
I promise I'm not bad. I'm just dumb. And I forget.
yeah. It's a real thing. I've finally cleaned up my act this year, and I'm in the process of, like, paying off for all my past sins in that area. It's a slow
Yeah,
process, but I will be fully compliant at some point in the near future, and they
I know.
know where I live.
Maturing. I know. I too am growing up slowly. Maybe by the time I'm in my 40s, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 38 now. And I think I'll get there one day. So
Yeah, I just found a good accountant, and then actually that was really important at the beginning. But there was a limited amount she could do in terms of like time commitment or whatever. Then like the real thing came with just finding a good bookkeeper
yeah.
who messages me and every month is like, hey, I make an effort, I forward her all my expenses and blah blah blah, and messages me and chases me up on things just to keep the paperwork in order. And she talks to my accountant, and between the two of them, things are pretty straight. And
Dude,
it
that's
took a
brilliant.
while to get there, but it's a I didn't realize how massive a source of stress it was this year.
Hmm.
Like,
Me too.
even this year, like, so there was some unexpected like tax related expenses due to stuff in past years that I hadn't properly taken care of. And even though it was like a kick to get this big like bill for a big, a large chunk of money enough to buy a new car with, the fact that I had like two professional people helping me with organizing all the paperwork meant it's annoying, but I know it's a fixable problem.
Yeah.
If I had not taken care of my shit and got this in order, it would have been like, oh my god, this is the end of the world. I'm gonna go live under a bridge and eat beans from a can.
Yeah. If you can afford them at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, if the government will let me keep a few pennies.
Yeah. You're not allowed to have beans, sir. Yeah. That's brilliant.
um, what's
Yeah.
next? So you're going to launch your own FinPub type of situation in the next few months?
Yeah, we've been on it the last couple months, so it's like in the next couple weeks is really what it is. It's you know, this has been such a fascinating and brilliant experience doing this because before operating as a copywriter, it was simple. I would write the copy, I would submit it into the ether, witchcraft would happen, and then a promotion would show up on the internet, and it's like, here it is, and it's like, cool. Well,
I did
now,
this.
yeah,
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 but you didn't really. You did a bit of it.
yeah. But now, yeah, so now it's, dude, I've been doing everything. No, okay, that's not true. The my partner Chris, he's been doing all the um tech stack stuff, as well as he's really good at marketing, like especially through email marketing. He's got like 30 plus lists, each with like 50, 100,000 names on it, with all these other financial co-reg types of offers he's doing. So he's been like managing that side of it. But I've been writing all the copy. Went down to Florida. Actually, with this camera, I was the one shooting the guru, writing it, and then like shooting it. And like I got this like Rode just has like this new wireless mic, lapel
Oh,
mic.
yeah, I've seen it. It plugs straight into an iPhone, right?
Oh well, this one is like an actual like proper like device with like a
Ah, okay.
transponder and receiver, and it's like, so it's like spending money on that and spending money on lenses and lighting and all this stuff and bringing it all down there and shooting. with it, and then making sure, and then like I'm having like these night sweats, like, did it actually pick up the audio? Right. And it's like
Did I
just like,
back up all the footage?
yeah. And like, dude, I backed it up like in like 4 different spots, even sent it, to the cloud, and checked, make sure the audio is there, and just, and then it's like, oh, now I gotta remember how to use Adobe Premiere and start assembling the footage and editing and doing all. And now it's like, okay, now cool, let's get it onto the website. And is a copy now appropriate for it? Now it's like I gotta be objective and think like, will this get them to watch the video, stuff like that. And then building all those assets out, thinking more like a proper publisher, and not just as a single skill, kind of like monkey writing copy. And so it's, man, the learning curve has been gnarly, gnarly and intense at best. But it's like, at the same time, it's like, I'm glad I'm doing it. I'm learning more than I ever have writing copy before. Yeah,
That's awesome.
highly recommend it, and wouldn't wish it upon anyone unless you wanted to do it. But it's been tremendous.
And so how will you actually like get the ball rolling? Your partner has all the lists, so will you drive traffic from the list that already exist?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so like the funnel that we have built out for this, is, it is a free offer. AI is hot right now, obviously. So it's like, here's
Mhm.
these AI stocks that are actually going to perform, that kind of thing. And they get on there, and here's the AI stocks. But then to transition into the offer, it's like, but I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket. Here's, in the real world, here's how you would actually make money. Right. And then building up the case for why you would need a proper portfolio, and then I'm going to give you the portfolio, which is like a stack of like the 15, 20 stocks, all properly balanced, so that you can make the same amount of money with half the risk. It's like, maybe you'll make as much as the S&P, or typically you'll make as much as the S&P does going up, but when the S&P drops, we're not going to drop as far. Right. And so building out that case, it's a terribly boring idea. It's a very rational, reasonable idea. So we're not looking for like breakthrough conversions, but we're looking for long-term customers, and it's a simple offer. It's $50 a year, and then we send out the newsletter with, here's the updates, to the portfolio. Here's how to manage it.
That sounds like the kind of perfect offer that's actually perfect for an affiliate or back end type of offer, right? Because you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to make extreme claims to get attention of cold traffic.
Yeah, yeah. We actually have no claims. The only claims. Okay, let me rephrase that. The claims that we have is, you'll make. This is designed to make what the S&P does, maybe outperform it a little bit, but it's completely engineered to not lose as much money. Not saying you won't lose money, so you won't lose as much money, right? And so it's like, I mean, very typical claims of many other hedge funds, except we have our secret sauce that we use, that we talk about in the promo, that makes ours different than just going with a hedge fund, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
The
Yeah, so we
secret
have
sauce is
some
you actually
mechanism.
have real marketing.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a real guy who's been doing this for 100 years, who's very successful doing what he's doing, and yeah, isn't just like a Vince from V-Shred type of dude, a figurehead.
But it goes in the other direction too. I mean, people in the financial industry, like, they're very product centric, or
Hmm.
at best relationship centric. Like their business
Yes.
their business model is based on relationships.
Yeah, I would argue that.
Whereas, so they have a missing piece there where they don't necessarily know how to go out and create markets the way somebody can do who's a good internet marketer. They can go out and create a market for sure, but they're doing it in a different way. They'll do it through PR, they'll do it through events, they'll do it through networking in a geographical area, and they'll do it through probably some level of like getting involved with publications, with traditional like legacy media and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, that's actually the original reason why our guru wanted to. So our guru and my partner Chris, they first talked, and that was the original idea, is how can we do this financial publishing thing to ultimately help me have conversations with potential clients, you know, people who would be the multi-million-dollar people where I can manage their portfolio. And so as of right now, that is the ultimate backend. And there's ways, they're not loopholes, but there's like legitimate, completely compliant legal ways where we can collect a commission, if you will. I think there's a special word for it, but basically a referral fee for we sent them this, they came in with this much assets, we can collect this much money over like a 12-month period, that type of thing.
Yes, usually like an introducer fee or something like that, isn't it?
I don't know, but that sounds appropriate. Yeah, something like that. And so like we'll have a mid-tier, you know, it's not a back end. It is a back end, but it's like a $400-$500 type of thing. And then we're also going to do live events, like a once a year thing for all the subscribers, where it's, you know, they get a free ticket, where it's like we'll open up a venue of some sort and let's all come together and talk about stocks and the portfolio. And really it's just older, you know, people with money that just want to get together and talk shop and talk nerdy stuff and just have a good time. They just want to drink. That's really what they want to do. You know, I mean, like some of these people, they're legitimately like retired physicians who are just like they subscribe to everything. They bought like so many back ends and they continue to do so. And they're like, this is their hobby now.
It's interesting. I did some work with a guy who was trying to market a real estate was like a kind of investing club to physicians in New York. He fell out of the glue eventually. He never actually launched. But like he was married to a physician, and it was like his thesis was like these people are highly educated, tend to have quite a large ego because, you know, they're one of these kind of positions in society where everyone's telling them that they're wonderful and they've got very high status. They tend to have quite expensive lifestyles. They have pretty high income, but they don't tend to have a lot of financial nous because all they've done really through their formative years is really, really study hard for tests. And they haven't, they've got a really great education in their area of expertise, but they don't tend to typically have a very broad education. And couple that with, yeah, high living costs, taste for the good life, relatively high income, but high living expenses. They don't tend to have a lot of savings. And then big ego means it's hard for them to actually admit that they need help in this area.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well said. I mean, I don't know if I read this somewhere or if I accidentally made it up, but like, I think there's some kind of a stat or even like an anecdotal thing out there talking about how like some of the worst investors are physicians because they're super smart in one area, therefore they must be smart in all areas, right? Yes. And so they're like, I'm smart, I can do this, right? These are the same people who are like, you know, I'm going to go into Home Depot and buy like the high, you know, or, you know, home improvement store and like buy the top end equipment. And I'm going to go and build my own desk or, you know, or deck or even, or table or something like that.
They saw their own leg off.
Right. And it's like, and yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know if you've ever done like, I know you like did your desk thing, but like even just doing rudimentary woodworking, it's like, is an impressive amount of measuring and on the fly engineering and all that stuff. And actually knowing how to use the equipment that you're using, you know, like driving a screw straight into the wood and not having to go sideways and stuff, like all sorts of stuff, that ancillary stuff. And it's like, and yeah, end up sawing their leg off or something like that, cutting the femoral artery, just, you know, trying to build a birdhouse, you know, just like...
Oh man, it's good. Oh man, look, that sounds awesome, Jimmy, and I hope you have a hell of a lot of success with it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to talk with me today. I really appreciate it. It's been a
great to be on with you, man.
Did we do this before? Did we have a chat like this before?
I don't think so. I think it was the first time. I mean, there was one time when I listened to you on a video and it was one of those like, oh, I just realized I never knew what John's voice actually sounded like before, you know what I mean? And I think I made a comment about that or something before, but that was like the closest we got to having an actual like video conversation.
People are regularly surprised when they hear my voice. They're like, oh, you're Irish. Like,
I knew you were Irish. I know it's just, you have these, it's sort of like when you meet your internet friends in real life and it's like, oh, you're taller than I thought, or you're shorter than I thought.
I'm shorter than you think.
Right. And okay, so it's like I have the same thing where it's like I invent what people sound like. Like
Yes.
that's what my brain does. And so it's like, yeah, so it's like your voice was definitely like a lot, I don't know, more baritone. I want to say richer than like
Okay. Thank
what
you.
my brain decided it was.
Nice. Like
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Yeah, a little more
Smooth.
husky.
I'm gonna put the links to your website down below. But what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to?
Honestly, Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not anywhere else. I mean, maybe I have accounts somewhere, but like, I don't know, it's just my habit. Go on there and just do jokes.
Do jokes. Yeah.
Do
It's
jokes.
good. It's good. You know, it's like you can't talk about copy and marketing all the time. That's boring nerd stuff. Tell jokes, be a good hang. People will like you.
Yeah. Yeah, just go have fun. It's like I'm there to enjoy myself, just take my mind off of whatever I'm working on and then go back to doing serious stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jimmy. Really appreciate
Appreciate you,
it.
brother.